called Wicked Messes, and that what you do is about dealing with wicked messes. So maybe you should.
Sure. So as I've been developing this work over the years, one of the things that occurred to me was a lot of people are really great problem solvers, which is wonderful. We need good problem solvers in the world. But most people's default stance is to look at the world as a set of problems out there. And so when we see something like, you know, just choose anything. We live in San Francisco, so we have a homeless problem. But is it really a homeless problem? It's actually a homeless mess. Now, problems, messes, and wicked messes are the terms that I use. And messes and wicked messes might sound whimsical, but they actually go back to, I think, the 1970s and some German guys named Horst and someone else who, they kind of invented these terms. And basically, the distinctions that I use, which are very simple, they've got some very, you know, they're German, so there's these really long things on Wikipedia around this, but the distinction is that a problem is something that is discrete, that can be solved, that once it's solved, you don't have to solve it again, and it shows up in certain domains, like there's in math there's problems, in logic there's problems, in rock climbing there's problems, in finance, in puzzle solving, stuff like that. One of the conditions of people who solve problems is that they love to talk to each other about how they're doing. Problem solvers love to talk to each other. But a lot of times we have problems that can't be solved. And that's an indication that we're actually dealing with a mess. So messes are systems where things are connected, but often invisibly. So something over here that is broken or that gets jiggled with affects something over there that doesn't show up for 3 months, and so there's these hidden feedback loops, and it requires a very different approach. You have to have a systems-based approach, so you need cross-disciplinary teams, you need systems modeling, and again, communication among people working on this tends to be very high because they love to explore what's going on. Now, wicked messes takes a mess and couples it with culture. And so when you've got different cultures who refuse to talk to each other or acknowledge each other's existence or even acknowledge the legitimacy of each other, then you have a wicked mess, because now you have all the problems that you have with a problem plus a system. So you have high systems complexity and you have high social complexity. And when you're dealing with a problem mindset is great. When you're dealing with a mess, a problem mindset is not great. And when you're dealing with a wicked mess, a problem mindset most always makes it much more messy. And wicked in this case means highly resistant to intervention. It's not a pejorative term. It just means that it's really, you know, there's all these dynamics in place that make it very, very resistant to change. And so what I've worked up is a way of approaching it that is not problem-based, but rather it's mess-based. And so in order to deal with a mess, you need to create intelligence. And my experience of working with large groups is that there are ways to create intelligence in large groups by asking the right questions and supporting them with the right process. Often I use something based on World Cafe. I do a lot of work with Peter Block's work from Community, the Structure of Belonging. He uses people in clusters of 3. I run open space. I combine those. I use what I call small A appreciative inquiry, which is not the full, you know, do and dream and design piece of, you know, the 4 steps in appreciative inquiry, but just kind of cherry picking from the best. David Cooperrider said in all of his work he discovered a couple of very important truths. One of which is that the most important questions you can ask are not what's wrong and who's to blame, but what matters and who cares. And that people grow in the direction of the questions that they're asked. So if you ask someone a question that makes them defensive, you're going to grow defensiveness. If you ask someone a question that is appreciative of their experience, that makes them cast their mind to a time when they succeeded and bring forward the lessons and the qualities, and you do that in a large group, you can generate a huge amount of intelligence in a very short time, and then you have a way to get that group to work together, thinking about new issues that they haven't had to deal with before from a real base of strength and creativity, that if you simply went in and dropped it in as a problem and said, analyze this and find a solution, you wouldn't get to.
That's really cool.